My name is Angie, and growing up, I did not know the Lord. I was not raised in church. I think for the most part, my childhood was pretty happy. My mom wasn't really involved in my life. She was there, but she wasn't there. Looking back, I see how that probably had a huge effect on me and left a void in my heart for love or attention. But growing up, we did not go to church, and so I lost my virginity at a very early age. I would say I was like 14, maybe 15. That turned into drug use at a very young age. So I led a very rebellious, destructive lifestyle starting in my teenage years until early adulthood, even past that. I got pregnant when I was 23 with my first daughter, and I did give birth to her, but her dad and I did not end up staying together. And I would say before she was even 2, I got pregnant again with a guy that I was just casually dating. And I remember going to him and letting him know that I was pregnant. And he immediately said how much he did not want children, how he had no intention of being present during this pregnancy, and that he wanted nothing to do with me and nothing to do with the baby, and that he was willing to help pay for an abortion. And honestly, when I look back at that, I was so ashamed that I was even pregnant again, because I was living at home, I was working, but my parents were really supporting me and my daughter. And I just felt shame being pregnant again and being so young. I also had this thought that there's no quality guy out there that would want a woman with 2 kids, let alone with 2 different dads. And I also didn't have anyone in my life telling me that this abortion was not a good idea. In fact, it was very opposite of that. I had a lot of people in my life telling me that it was a good idea. So when we went to the abortion clinic, there were people outside holding signs. I don't remember if they were yelling or screaming at me or telling me that I was going to go to hell, but I know that they're advocating for the life of my baby, and I just tried to shut that out as much as I could. And I remember being in the clinic, and just the way that it felt inside was very sad. Every woman that I looked at was very sad, and it was very quiet. And I remember going into this room and them doing an ultrasound to confirm that I was in fact pregnant. And when it was time for me to get dressed, I remember looking in the trash, and there were just all these sonograms of all these like babies. And my baby was one of them. But the funny thing is at the time, I didn't even think of it as a baby. I justified it. It's just a clump of cells. It's not a baby, which is so far from how I feel right now in this moment, and even after I got saved. But I think I was just so lost and selfish that it didn't matter to me at the time. It was a problem that I wanted to resolve and just be out of that situation and just move forward. So there was quite a bit of time between the abortion and getting saved. And it was a man that just came into my life, a godly man that literally saved me from myself and led me to the Lord, and that is my husband today. And with him, we have 2 children here on earth. We have 2 children in heaven together. But I went through my salvation knowing that I was saved and forgiven, but I also still lived in shame because I didn't forgive myself. And I didn't feel comfortable telling anybody that I had grown up in church with for the last 10 years that I had had an abortion, because there was some lie that the enemy wanted me to believe that they would never still love me for me, knowing that I had done that, even though it was a long time ago. So it wasn't even until last year that I felt comfortable getting in front of a group of women that I had known for 10 years. One of them was my best friend, and just saying, hey, this is what happened to me 18 years ago. And I know that the Lord forgives me, but I feel like I need to share this so that I can, number one, forgive myself, and number two, just start healing from it. I was so lost at the time of my abortion and so selfish at the time of my abortion that I don't think I really understood the impact spiritually on my life. I don't even think I valued my own life at that time. So it's really hard to put value on any life when you don't even look at yourself as being like valuable or worthy. I was just kind of floating through life. I was lost. Physically, it was painful. You know, you cramp for several days, you feel like crap, you don't really feel like doing anything at all. I still had a baby girl to take care of. You know, it didn't really have an impact on my relationships going forward because I was already a mess in that department. I just went from relationship to relationship because that was how I felt validated, that was how I felt loved. It didn't matter if that relationship was healthy, it didn't matter if that relationship was abusive. It was almost like I would just rather be in a dysfunctional relationship than be alone. You know, when you meet the right person, they will love you for you, and they won't care if you have 10 kids. It won't matter. My husband and I have talked about my abortion, and he said, you know, when I met you, I just fell so in love with you. It wouldn't have mattered if you had 2 kids or 5 kids. He said it probably would have been a lot, but I just loved you because I saw you the way that God saw you and loved you no matter what. So if there's a girl that's worried about a future husband and how he's going to perceive that, I know it's really hard to understand, but just trust that God has the perfect man for you that will love you no matter what you're bringing into that relationship. And I also look at my life now and think like, wow, I would have 2 teenagers right now, and I only have one, and what their life would be like, and it would have been okay. Like, I made a decision too quick. I wish I had had more time to think about it. I wish I had had at least just one person in my life say, Angie, just trust me when I say it's going to be okay, that this will all work out. I know it seems like a really big deal right now, and I know it seems like the end of the world, like adding on another baby, but at the end of the day, it would have all worked out. And I think that's what I just regret the most, is just moving too quickly and deciding to have an abortion and not really taking time to pray about it. But I didn't have the Lord at that time, so wish I could go back and change that for sure. I found the Lord in my marriage in the first year of my marriage to this amazing man that I really don't know how he stayed with me the first year, because I just put him through the ringer. I just wasn't a good wife. I didn't love him the way that he needed to be loved. I didn't make him feel like a man. I think that came from watching my mom not be submissive to my dad, and watching her always be so hard and always standing up to him. And I just didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what it meant to be a wife. And he had a friend that was talking to him and said, hey, I really feel like you guys need to come to our church. And so we went to church on Easter, and they had an altar call at the end. And I just remember being in that whole service crying the entire time, just so touched by the Lord. Didn't even know what that meant, but we both got saved at the same time. We went up and we received prayer, and then we started counseling. And then it really wasn't too much longer that we got pregnant with our second child. We had miscarried with our first, and we both got baptized when I was pregnant with her. It's possible to come to God and be saved and still remain broken, because there's things that we can hold on to, and there's a depth and a vulnerability that we won't let God have. I'm there now, but it's taken me 10 years of knowing the Lord, what it really means to be vulnerable with him and receive his love and just embrace the fullness of his love. And part of that is, stop living in the secrets that we think keep us safe. They really don't keep us safe. They keep us bound. And it gives an opportunity for the enemy to still have a foothold in our life when we feel like we need to keep secrets from people. And so that's one reason why this has been so healing, because it's just brought so much freedom and sharing. And it's allowed me to let God come in and just scoop out all that stuff that he doesn't want in there and replace it with more of him.